men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual, free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
Strolling down memory lane, we're going to sing a medley of songs that brought us over, or songs that carried us through. These songs were in the struggle. These songs have been remade and remade and remade, but they are a blessing to us. Lord, keep me day by day. Hallelujah, hallelujah. And we've come this far by faith.
We've come this far by faith, leaning on the Lord. Trust His holy word. He never failed me yet.
Come on, you know it. Sing on.
Can't turn around. Come too far by faith.
Come on, sing it again. Say oh.
Can't turn around.
of the board of Mangina, Brandeis University's Jewish a cappella group, we feel very blessed to take part in this beautiful event in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Today you will be hearing our rendition of an Israeli folk song called Darkenu, which translates in English to Our Path. The song speaks about our ability to overcome even the most daunting challenges with the help and strength of others. Our path is not easy, writes the song's author, and yet very soon the candle will finish dying out. The commotion of the day will begin to break through. You won't walk alone. I'll be there with you.
This past year has been painful for so many of us. Despite the struggles, it has reinforced what we recognize in our hearts to be true, that we can overcome anything when we unite together and lift each other up. This is the message your communities, New Light and Rodman Street Baptist Church, embody through this event and your continued partnership. And this is a message worth remembering as we commemorate Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 2021.
With this message of unity and strength, we look toward the coming year and envision a more hopeful future on our path together. Here is Darkenu.
Good evening, everyone. It is our pleasure to come to our 2021 joint worship service for the Martin Luther King Jr. commemoration. I am so blessed and honored to have each and every one of you to join us today. I am Dr. Darrell Trevino Kennedy. I am the senior pastor of the Rodman Street Missionary Baptist Church in the city of Pittsburgh and virtually around the world. And we are so excited today to have my very good friend who will introduce himself and his congregation at this time.
Hi, I am Rabbi Jonathan Perlman. I'm dressed in my scrubs today because I'm also a chaplain at Shadyside Hospital. And I want to wish everybody a happy Martin Luther King birthday celebration. And I'm really glad from New Light congregation to be joining Rodman Street Baptist Church, I think for it may be the 10th year that we have come together to talk and to sing and to unite together around some very, very important issues that were important to Dr. King in his time and continue to be important in our time. So I'm really glad to be here.
Well, we are so grateful. Rabbi Perlman certainly did not want to allow the coronavirus and the shutdown to stop us from having this time for us to be able to come together. So we are doing something that he and I had never done before. We are doing this virtually and we are learning on the fly. But I'm so excited for the work that he is continuing to do along with the New Light congregation and the Jewish community and what we are able to do through Rodman Street in the city of Pittsburgh. So we are really excited. We thought that we would do something different today. We're going to have some questions that he and I are going to look at and we're going to discuss. And we hope that you will also use it as a discussion piece. We ask now that you would even start a watch party, that you will begin to chat so that we can get your feedback. And again, thank you for joining us for this time. Rabbi, as we've been talking about in our private time, want to look at coronavirus and the lockdown of a community, of our community. I never thought that such a thing could happen. I just never envisioned anything like this ever happening. And initially, when we were shut down, I thought we'd be down maybe 2 weeks. Now we are going into 10 months. And it has been a very different time because churches, the synagogue, we are communal. We enjoy fellowship. We enjoy coming together. So what are some of the things that you have seen during this time?
Well, it's been a challenge. I think spiritually, in our synagogue, we have gone from being in person and being able to greet one another every week and eat some food and pray together to this kind of virtual, Zoom community. And I know some people appreciate it, but I think that it is very destructive of the idea of community. I like to use the word lockdown. That's exactly how I feel. I feel locked down in my spirit. I feel locked down in my personhood. I feel demoralized and isolated from everyone else. And every week I have to go back on Zoom and I sing the songs myself and pray the prayers myself. And I can't even get an amen or to hear people join in because Zoom is not advanced enough to be able to do things in unison. The technology is so that everything sounds like people are not coming together. It's the opposite of unity. It's disunity. And it's been plaguing, I know, the synagogue and synagogues around the world and churches as well. And I know that there are places that are trying really innovative strategies like meeting outside under tents. I just got back from New Jersey, even in freezing weather, people are getting their parkas on. They're sitting in folding chairs in the backyards of people's homes with their masks on, just so that they can be with other people. And I think that that's what the coronavirus has done to our culture, that it's torn us away from those we love and those we care for. Now, on the one hand, there are people dying. It's a tragedy. There are people who are getting sick, and we must minister to them in their illness. But at the same time, the nature of this organism is that we can't let people near that people that are infected. So these people can't even get the comfort of their own family at the time of their last hours on Earth, and that is disheartening as well.
Yep, it certainly has been different. I have tried to make the best of what's going on. So what we have done virtually, we minister to our congregation 7 days a week. I initially started out thinking that we were going to be shut down for about 14 days, and I made a commitment to myself that I could go on for 7 days a week for 2 weeks. Now it's been about 10 months. So what I've tried to do to the very best of our ability is to keep our people connected through the virtual aspect of them being able to get on and watch, whether it be on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, or those persons who don't have access to the internet. We even have a call-in number so that they can hear. So we've tried to the very best of our ability to try to keep the people together that way. Also, we every first Sunday we do communion. So then on that first Saturday, the Saturday before first Sunday, we normally allow the people to come in the church parking lot, pick up their communion supplies as well as a gift from the church. We also have utilized our robocalls, sending out large mass emails, text messages, and other things to try to keep people as much as we can connected. We have had actually members to die of coronavirus. We've had about 14 people within the church to die during this time, not everybody of coronavirus, and we have not been able to have in-person funerals. As you have said before, that is very difficult. And you being a chaplain, you understand that during those real difficult and challenging time and last days and the last rites of people, family have not been able to be there. So that has certainly been something that is very, very different. I want to challenge, however, and to say that what I've been saying to our congregation is that you win some and you learn some. My question is, what have we learned during this time? I've talked specifically about 5 areas that I believe that we should be learning. Number 1, what have you learned about yourself? Number 2, what have you learned about God? Number 3, what have you learned about your relationship with God? Number 4, what have you learned about your priorities? And number 5, what have you learned about your relationships with others? I think that we have to put a positive spin on it from the perspective, I lived at Rodman Street Church. I would go to Rodman from 9 o'clock in the morning to oftentimes 9 o'clock at night. This has given me an opportunity to step back, spend some time at home, spend some time reflecting, spend some time re-examining my life, my lifestyle, and the things that I believe God is calling me to do. So I don't look at it simply from a negative standpoint. Certainly I miss the fellowship. Certainly I miss coming together, things that we have taken for granted. But I think that there are some learning things that we could do as we move forward.
Yeah. I like this term that's used, shelter in place. And I prefer it more than the word lockdown because it's evocative of the biblical examples and other examples in history of what people do when they come to a crisis. I'm thinking specifically of Elijah in the cave. Elijah runs away and isolates himself from his pursuers, and he is alone, and he's alone with God. and he discovers something new about himself that he didn't know before. And he discovers something new about his relationship with the Almighty, that he doesn't have to flee, that God is his strength and his shield. And we have lots of examples, from monastic culture to other kinds of culture, or the idea of retreat, that people go into retreat and spend some time alone, not necessarily because there's some kind of threat out there, but because they need that for self growth. So I've been encouraging my congregation as well to take this as a time to do some learning as well, in terms of our relationships to others and who we are. And I think the greatest part of last year was that my two daughters, one daughter came home from college, one daughter came home because her work wasn't letting them into the building, so she could do work virtually. So I had we had my three daughters and myself and my wife, and we got to eat dinner every single night. We got to be with one another on weekends and for Shabbat, and it was really a great learning experience to be able to have my family together. That we were truly, sheltering in place.
Wow. Well, that is awesome. And so that's how I try to the very best of my ability to try to put a positive spin on what has happened. Well, one of the biggest things that took place this year happened on May 25th of 2020, was the murder of George Floyd in police custody, and how this not only affected America, but we saw demonstrations around the world. As a Black man, as an African American male in this society, I have to tell my son, I have a 26-year-old son, I have to tell him that if the police stop you, these are the things that you have to do to stay alive. I have a 21-year-old daughter. I tell her the same thing, because they don't care whether you're male or female. The things that she has to do to stay alive. These are the challenges that in the African American community that we have to have every day. It is not any day that we are not challenged with trying to stay alive in this racist society. And so I want to talk a little bit, about that. Certainly, to see that man's life being taken away in broad daylight on camera by people who should have been protecting him and serving him. And it was devastating. But I really don't want what we saw in May to make us relax now. And so what are some of your thoughts when you saw and some of the things that are going on in your community as a result?
Well, of course, I was furious, and I was really embarrassed for the city of Minneapolis. I lived in Minneapolis for 3 years before I moved to Pittsburgh, and I worked in a hospital as a training chaplain in the very same neighborhood that George Floyd was murdered. So I know exactly those streets and the kind of people that are living in those streets. It's a mixed neighborhood, not just a Black neighborhood. And as we know, there were lots of people that saw this beating going on. They taped it on their iPhones, and they were white people and Black people who tried to tell them to stop what they were doing. But these policemen, and I understand that some of them weren't even from the city; they were from outside the city, a different county from the city. They just went on and did what they did. It The only positive aspect of this is the call out to the world to be anti-racist and to consider the systemic problem that is going on in our country and other countries in this world, in which racism is built into so many different systems, whether it's policing, or whether it's jobs or education, or or whatnot. It is a problem that we've ignored for too long. And who took up the mantle of the protest? It was the youth of this country. And it was more white people that we've seen in protests of this sort before. I'm not sure what did it. Maybe it was just the video of the murder of this young black man, and that everybody had access to it, and everybody was triggered in the same way. But it was the youth that took to the streets in nonviolent protest and in violent protests. Can't ignore that. And it showed to me that there was a hope for the future, that the power of youth for the next generation will begin to tamper down on racism and call it for what it is, and to be able to teach people to be anti-racist in the way they understand their world.
I think that, I've been in Squirrel Hill, not far from your synagogue, and I was stopped by the police, questioned whether the vehicle was mine that I was driving in, and where I was going. And I told the officer that I was going to pick up my daughter from St. Edmund's Academy. He asked me, what street is it on? What street is the school on? So these are the things that we go through on a daily basis. Now, I'm sure I had more education than both of them. I am an upstanding pastor at one of the greatest churches in this city. And for me to be questioned that way, I can only imagine how someone who does not have what I have, how they are going through. So the George Floyd incident, unfortunately, is something that everybody saw. And now I'm hoping that we can move forward. I believe that during this last 4 years in particular, with the rise of Donald Trump did not run on the ticket for the Republican Party on abortion. He did not run on same-sex marriage. He ran on white supremacy. Make America great again is just a code word for making America white again, with no intention of hiding his hand. So we have seen this. And even with this last election, yes, more people came out than ever before, but 74 million people voted for him. And to me, it was not so much as him as it was is that they were trying to vote, and they locked it down to, well, killing babies. Well, let me say this. It's one thing to talk about you are pro-life, but I want you to look at being pro-living. What happens when that African American or that person of color grows up and you see the poverty, you see the segregation, you see the lack of health care, which is some of the things that we are seeing now that's really being exasperated during this COVID-19, how so many people of color are dying in proportion to the population. So what I saw there was just a prime example of what we've been experiencing these last 4 years under the leadership of Donald Trump.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with you, Daryl, and I have to say that Donald Trump created a culture that already existed, I believe, but he became the man who marches in front and leads the way. And there are so many different comments that he made over the last 4 years to basically say that black people should not be in the lead of the culture that we have here in the United States. And make America great again means let's make America white again. When he thought from the very beginning that the election would be fraudulent. And what did he say? What was his evidence that the election was going to be fraudulent? He said, well, you have cities like Philadelphia and Detroit. There's some very corrupt people there. And what did he mean by that? He meant that, we white people need to suppress the black vote in cities like Philadelphia, Detroit, which has a very large black population, and discount them because they should not be electing the next president. That's what it meant to me. And to hear that, from, the leader of our country was very disheartening. His comments in Charlottesville about the racism that was going on there, and saying that the white supremacists were some very good people. And then you saw it just in the last few days with the Capitol insurrection, that calling people evil, and calling people that were not on his side. He's continuously being divisive, and the people that are the people that are the most supportive of him in the extreme are people that are white supremacists, that support white supremacist websites and magazines, and come out in full force and break into our, one of our, the holy of holies of our democracy, and he wants to call these people friends. I love you. Just go home. We know that we're right. What is he setting up? So I read an article, Daryl, in the Atlantic yesterday, and one of the things that it said is that we are a very young interracial democracy. The 1965 we passed the Right to Vote Act, and since then we have been trying through every election to try to integrate the vote, to try to get more and more people in the black community to be representative, to vote, to be part of the vote. And every time we have been met with backlash since 1965. So this is just one more example through this last election that that people just don't get it. They are unwilling to allow the black man to play a significant role in this country. I'm very sorry about. I've heard this story about being stopped by the police in this city so many times that it makes me want to vomit. People that I hold in great regard, intelligent people, people that are college educated, people that have titles next to their names. It doesn't matter. Just the color of your skin. That's what matters to some of these police that are going around and and having people pull over so they can ask them a few questions.
And this is something as we look at what has happened. I think it's really worth saying. Today we are celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. We're commemorating him, and the newest senator in the state of Georgia is Raphael Warnock, who is pastoring the church that Martin Luther King Jr. and Sr. Used to pastor, the Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, as well as he's a Morehouse graduate, which I am as well, right, along with Martin Luther King Jr. And so we see some history going on. I want to do a shout out to Stacey Abrams. I want to do a shout out to all of those persons in Georgia who helped to turn Georgia blue to give President Biden an opportunity to win that state, and now to have two senators, one African American, but the second one is a Jew.
Right.
Ossoff is only 33 years old, a young man. He's the youngest United States senator in the last 40 years.
Right.
So I'm very excited to see what I like to say, what the devil meant for evil, God turned it around for good.
Right.
And we want to talk now about the election, the historic election of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Joe Biden is 78 years old, or will be, if he hasn't turned that, will be the oldest president. I believe that God sent that man back to try to help to save our democracy. We were going off the cliff. We were going off the edge. People were able to separate what Donald Trump did, what he stood for, and say, oh, well, he's doing this and that. One of my premise statements has been, for some people, race is their religion. Above God, above their faith, above even their country and the morals of the country, race is a religion. And Donald Trump was able to tap into that. But I am so excited. I am rejuvenated now with the fact that Joe Biden has put in what I believe, based on what I'm reading, the most diverse cabinet of people that we've ever had. And so I'm excited about that, because we talk about this being the United States of America. That means that we got to include everybody.
Right. I agree. We should not miss in all of the in the bad things that we read about and see on the news. This election in November was of historic importance, and generations into the future, they're going to look back at this election as being so critical to the changing nature of American democracy. I always wondered, why can't we get people to vote the way they vote in other countries around the world? Do you know that in Australia, it is a law that you vote in your election, and that you will have a citation sent to you if your vote is not recorded. In Israel, where I visited many, many times, the people vote 85% of the population, sometimes 90% of the population. It is a national holiday. People take off work so that they can go to the polls. But in America, it's always been about the elite who get to vote. It's about the people who are able to get to the polls, even if it's a work day. And we have never been able to excite, 90, 95% of the population to show up in big numbers. I meet so many people who say, I just don't care. Both sides are corrupt. It doesn't really make a difference. Well, this year, 2020, despite the fact that we were sheltering in place, despite the fact that there were all kinds of voter suppressions going on in the state of Georgia, in Michigan, in Pennsylvania, people mailed in their votes, and it was the mail-in votes that was really the tipping point of the whole election. I can tell you that here in Allegheny County, that's where they were finishing the vote count when it came that Pennsylvania had gone in favor of Biden-Harris. And I was out on the corner of Forbes and Murray dancing with people in the streets. I'd just come from synagogue. I was dressed in my suit and tie. And my daughter said to me, Abba, can we go out and dance with everybody? I hear they're dancing at Forbes and Murray. And we got up and danced. And even though the cars there, there was a time when they have to stop and let the pedestrians cross. it's only about 30 seconds. We got out there and girls were doing flips and women were coming out in their wheelchairs. And there were all kinds of different races and nationalities. And we were all so jubilant for this time. And no one is going to take away that joy from us.
Yes.
Um,
Yep. And when Joe Biden selected Kamala Harris, the first African American, the first woman, the first African American woman, first Asian Indian woman to be in the second highest office in the world, I say, because the president of the United States is the most powerful office in the world. So we are really excited about what she's going to bring to the ticket. Little girls now can see that they can become whatever they want to become.
right.
Girls of color can see that you can become whatever you want to become. And that's what's so important, because if we are really going to be the United States of America, everybody has to have a voice in it. So I am so proud of what happened in Atlanta. I went to school at Morehouse and Emory. So I spent 8 years there getting education, and to see the African Americans turn out to vote. And that's what took it over. That's what took Joe Biden over when his candidacy was really fluttering, when he went down to South Carolina and Congressman Jim Clyburn, helped to turn it around. And now we are seeing that Black votes count. And if people would just get up and go out and vote, we can determine who will be in our leadership roles, no matter where they are. I'm not sold on these red states and blue states. I'm sold on people just going out and having the opportunity to be able to exercise their rights to vote.
Mm-hmm.
I want to shift over now, Rabbi. In 1952, African-American author Ralph Ellison writes in the prologue of The Invisible Man, and I quote, "I am an invisible man. I am a man of substance, of flesh and bone, fibers and liquids, and I might even be said to possess a mind. I am invisible, understand? Simply because people refuse to see me. When they approach me, they see only my surroundings, themselves, or figments of their imagination. Indeed, everything and anything except me." In the midst of COVID-19, we are dealing with a new pandemic, the likes of nothing we have ever seen or ever imagined, with over 350,000 people in the United States alone having died within the last 9 months. The new pandemic is one thing, however, but an old pandemic is still causing extreme havoc on Americans, on African Americans and African American males in particular. That old racist pandemic, COVID-19. Yes, we've talked about George Floyd, but there was a man by the name of Ahmaud Arbery. He took 5,000 steps, 2.2 miles. He was a man that just shy of his 26th birthday, he stepped out to run, which would be the last steps that he took on this earth. 5,000 steps, 2.2 miles. He encountered 3 men who tested positive for Confederate COVID-19. The disease is often asymptomatic and is spread through human contact, rhetoric, ignorance, and family relationships. Ahmaud Arbery, a man of potential, was attacked and killed by America's most common and potent viral agent. The virus alters the eyesight of the attacker, weaponizing the body, giving the illusion of blackness as a threat, making melanin appear as a weapon, and any movement as potential danger. Another life taken, another public lynching, another news story, another act of recorded Black death. Our nation has become comfortable with the weekly broadcast of Black bodies falling to the ground. 5,000 steps, 2.2 miles. The death of Ahmaud Arbery is not an anomaly. This is happening too often. It is a pattern of behavior that binds every American to an unexamined history of our nation. In 8 minutes and 46 seconds, our brother George Floyd said 12 pleases, 12 I can't breathe, 2 calls to his deceased mama, and 1 I cannot move. He said these words while 1 policeman had his knee pressed down on his neck. 2 other police officers had his back and lower body pressed down with their weight on him. Another officer who made an oath to protect and serve just stood by and made sure that nobody else could help him. He was already handcuffed. He had already been searched. He was completely helpless. The brother cried out, "I can't breathe." The more he cried out, the more hopeless he became. Those who could have helped him didn't. Those who should have helped didn't. Those who would have helped didn't. Those who swore to protect and to serve didn't. As our brother George lay on that street, people were filming the event, but could not help him. Time after time, when people feel victimized and there appears to be no justice, many of them develop a victim's mentality. They begin to feel hopeless, and some resort to violence and self-destruction. Some resort to giving up and inactivity. Have you ever felt invisible and been counted out? There's a powerful scene in the movie The Equalizer where McCall, who was played by Denzel Washington, asked the Russian Nikolai, and I quote, "When you look at me, what do you see?" The answer is nothing. I have no feelings about you one way or another. You are like lint or a bottle cap. You are just a thing to remove. Those racist men in Georgia who chased Ahmaud Arbery to his death, and those police officers who murdered Breonna Taylor, shooting into her place, breaking into her home. The gentleman that they were looking for was already in custody. How could that happen? They only saw her as a piece of lint or as a bottle cap. They had no feelings about them one way or the other. They saw them like a piece of lint or a bottle cap, just as a thing to remove. Their precious lives did not matter to them. And we just saw, just the other day with the insurrection at the Capitol, the most fortified buildings in the world. I've been in that building. I've been in the rotunda. Even when I'm walking with a United States congressman, the police are asking me questions. And to allow what we saw there, these white supremacists almost being allowed to come in. Just a few months ago, Black Lives Matter had a rally there, and it was total chaos. They had so many National Guardsmen and so many others, and we see the tale of two Americas once again. There are pervasive stereotypes of urban Black males that demonstrate how they are treated in society, by the educational system, by the criminal justice system, and by society at large. Three stereotypes about Black male students are pervasive. They are anti-intellectual and anti-school. They are prone to criminality, and they are hard, unemotional, and disconnected from the domestic sphere. What we are trying to do through our school, the Life Male Science, Technology, Engineering, Arts, and Math Academy, which is scheduled now to open in August of 2021. Because of the pandemic, we had to put it off for a year. We are seeking then to disrupt such stereotypical representation of Black manhood by supporting young Black men in constructing identities that resist the problematic notions that confront them in society and in school. As a result of the aforementioned, we are doing something about it. It was on September the 11th, 2014. It was a 911 call. The 9th month, the 11th day, God said to me, save the boys. It was an emergency call. It was, as Martin Luther King Jr. says, the urgency of now call. When we see all of the death and destruction that is destroying our boys, we must realize that we are called to save the boys. I am very intentional about what God has called me to do. I believe that if we save the boys, we will save our families. We will save our women. We will save our girls. We will save our communities. It all begins with saving the boys. In the fall of 2021, we are opening the only K-12 male academy with a science, technology, engineering, arts, and math focused curriculum in the region. The name of the school is LIFE, which stands for Living Intelligently, Fulfilling Expectations. We believe that a STEM and a STEAM education will prepare them to compete globally in the 21st century. Our mission is to prepare all male scholars for college success and career readiness, and to serve as a catalyst to increase the presence of African-American males in the STEM pipeline. We are painfully aware of the many challenges that we've been talking about, even this evening, faced by young African-American males in our society, and we believe there must be bold, relevant, and innovative approaches that rally the entire village to work together to change the trajectories of their future. As members of the village, we are asking you to support the launching of the school because we believe that it will fill an important community and societal need. The program will offer important training, education, and empowerment skills to help young males reach their potential and improve our communities. You can find more information concerning the school at lifesteam.org. As I close, I want to conclude with a poem that I wrote, and I read it last year when we were together, but I want to read it again. It's entitled, I Wish. I wish that we could all laugh, eat, and drink together. Because of the Creator's infinite wisdom, He placed us all on earth forever. I wish that we all would judge by our character within, instead of being stereotyped and pigeonholed by the color of our skin. I wish that everyone would realize that we were created equal, and let love, peace, harmony, and joy be the sequel. I wish that we could all live above those discriminatory beliefs that separate and discover the human bond of love that coagulates. I wish that one day I could wake up and see racism die and see children of all races enjoy success by reaching for the sky. I wish that one day Black men and white men, all races alike, will be able to live in this vast world without hatred, division, and spite. I wish that everyone could look beyond the lenses of their own cultural eyeglasses and embrace the diversity and the uniqueness of the masses. I wish that everyone would mirror the ebony and ivory keys on a grand piano and imitate the intended synchronized tunes of the divine and majestic maestro. I wish that everyone would seek the creator of the universe and realize that his great desire is that there be unity among the diverse. I wish.
Amen. Before I give a parting benediction to all of us, there are two things that occurred to me as Reverend Kennedy spoke so well in his words, and that is that 2021 is going to be a year in which we get from under this idea of victimization, and that we will pursue victory between all races and creeds in our world. America has gone through a pandemic, not only in our bodies, but also within our spirit. And we've been challenged by people that continue to divide us. And I believe that the election in Georgia validates something that will be true of America in 2021. That Georgia, as a Confederate state in the Civil War, in Georgia, where blacks and whites were at odds with one another, deep discrimination for many years, and even as Pastor Kennedy spoke of, Ahmaud Arbery was shot by policemen as he fled from them, that this is new evidence or old evidence of racism deep within the state of Georgia. I also want to tell you about another man who in, I believe it was the 1920s, worked in a pencil factory in Georgia. His name was Leo Frank. And he was accused of raping a young girl. The charges were false, but the people saw this Leo Frank as a symbol of the anti-Semitism that was so deep in Georgian culture. And just like black men who they saw as a terrible symbol of what was bad about Georgian culture, they ended up lynching him. They lynched the Jew, and they lynched other black men, and they shot at Ahmaud Arbery. And what do you know? In this election, the two new senators for the state of Georgia will be a black man, a black pastor, and a Jewish man, representing a new Georgia for 2021. The second thing I wanted to mention that came to me when Pastor Kennedy was speaking were two photographs that I hold side by side in my mind that tell me what's terribly wrong about American society. One is a photograph of George Floyd, a towering man who had drug problems of his own, but did not want to be victimized and saw within himself a way to validate himself through Jesus Christ, and brought the Bible to many young people in his ministry. And he was most known in Texas for teaching basketball to young black youth and also the Bible. And so there was this one photograph that I saw of him gathered around with his students, and there he is hoisting the Bible to tell us what was true for him and what should be true for everyone. And then the second photograph is the photograph of our president, our defamed president, who, when violence got out of control in the state of Oregon and in other cities and states, he walked to the closest church and he held up a Bible surrounded by the National Guard. But you know what? That Bible wasn't true to him. And if you look closely at the picture, he's holding the Bible upside down. he created an upside down world these last 4 years. And if I can congratulate him for doing anything, it's that he was a great director of marketing of himself. And he led us on a marketing campaign for the past 4 years that didn't change the landscape of this country physically, but it changed us in how we understood one another through symbols. Because that's all what a marketer does. He manipulates symbols and the symbolism of what's right and what's not right, what's white and what's black. And he got us to everything that he did was to generate chaos and more chaos through the manipulation of symbols. Well, any prophet from the Bible is going to tell you that that is exactly what the prophets of Baal and other prophets did in the time of ancient Israel. They manipulated symbols. They built shrines to idols, and they got people to believe in these symbols. Not the changed nature of the landscape, not at all, but the thoughts in their heads. Their thoughts in their heads were changing to believe not in the one God, the true God, but in things that they could manipulate and turn into evil by turning against one another. So I end in a prayer of hope to our people, the Jewish people, the African American people, the people of New Light congregation, to the people of the Rodman Street Baptist Evangelical Church. We will make this a better year. We will make this a year in which we will get out of this idea of lockdown. We will be not locked down in our minds. We will be freed in our minds. We will be able to possess anti-racism as a way of being by being able to have friendships and to break bread with people that we do not often break bread with. This works on both sides, blacks with whites, whites with blacks. Because I feel that I have a mission that we need to finally change the nature of our society. And that this is a wake-up call, just as Martin Luther King was woke in his time, so too we need to be woke in our time. And we need to go over his letters and his speeches to know that he was a prophet and that his words are worth repeating for people all over this country. And I believe we have the leadership to do it, and we have the majority to do it, and we have the people on the ground like Reverend Darrell Kennedy, who is going to do it this year. So may we be blessed by the Almighty Lord to be blessed with compassion, to be blessed with grace, to be blessed with love. May it be your will, O God on high. May we be blessed.
Thank you, Rabbi. I pray that each of you have enjoyed this, our Martin Luther King Jr. commemorative service virtually. We are so excited that you have joined us this evening, and we pray that something was said to inspire you to go and love your neighbor. As God loves you, as our Creator loves you, he wants you and I to love each other. Thank you again, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking. I'm marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let no jailhouse turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let no jailhouse turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking. I'm marching up to freedom land. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around, turn me around, turn me around. Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around. I'm gonna keep on walking, keep on talking. I'm marching up to freedom land. Walk with me, Lord. Oh, walk with me. Oh, walk with me, Lord. I need you to walk with me. While I'm on this tedious journey, I want Jesus to walk with me. Hold my hand, Lord. Oh, hold my hand. Oh, hold my hand, Lord. I need you to hold my hand. While I'm on this tedious journey, I want Jesus to hold my hand. Guide my feet, Lord. Come on and guide my feet. Guide my feet, Lord. I need you to guide my feet. While I'm on this tedious journey, I want Jesus to guide my feet. Wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water. Oh, wade in the water, wade in the water, children, wade in the water. God's gonna trouble the water.